Hey everybody, it's Andy. Welcome back to my weekly show where I help you build a career you love. Today, we've got a great one on how to beat an internal candidate in a job interview. Got 5 or 6 pretty good tips, and these tips are not just for those individuals who are competing with internal candidates. They're going to be good for anybody. They're going to be just solid interviewing tips, but they are especially going to cover the disadvantages you have when you're going against an in-house candidate. So buckle up. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. If you are here with me live, get in the chat, say hello, tell me where you're from, what you need, put some question marks in front of any questions that you have because the chat gets pretty lively. If you're watching this on the recording, welcome to you too. You certainly don't need to put question marks in your comments. I'll be able to find them. So let's get right into this. I've been getting a lot of emails, comments on the YouTube channel and the blog in the Mile Walk Academy training program about these situations. You are always susceptible when you are interviewing to be going up against someone internal. So let's go through these. Some of these are going to be pretty solid. Some of these are going to be pretty common sense, but I think the whole packaging you will enjoy. All right, so let's start with the first point, and I want before I get into this first point, I want to, yes, I know I'm a little bit bright in the face. It's very dark, and let me see if I could adjust this. When it gets dark like this, I got so many monitors that sometimes I get, sorry about that, I get a little bright in the face, so I'll just have to deal with it. But I want to start by saying I realize that not everything that comes out of my mouth is earth-shatteringly brilliant. But sometimes these common sense points, the brilliance isn't in knowing the point, it's actually in the follow-through, right? We all know we're supposed to eat well, but do we? So this first step, I want to state the obvious, but I want to talk about it for a few minutes. I'm not even calling this step 1. So step 0 is you gotta ask. You gotta ask. This sounds really obvious, but actually let's get into the chat right away. Let's engage the chat right away today. How many of you, raise your hand. How many of you ask if there are any internal candidates in the process? Do you ask if there are any candidates in the process? So think about this. It is very natural for you to ask, just like an employer asks you, are you interviewing with anybody else? It's always okay to say, hey, are there any other candidates in the process? Any internal candidates, any external candidates? Just I'm curious to know, what the candidate landscape looks like. It's always okay to ask that. Okay, now that may sound obvious, and you might even ask that up front. So I'm guessing some of you do, a lot of you don't. But even for the ones who do, can I get another show of hands if you continue to ask that throughout the process? Last week or so, I've had 3 or 4 people say to me, Andy, hey, can you shoot a video on how to beat internal candidates? I was humming along, and I thought I had this one in the bag, and all of a sudden at the end, the hiring company said to me, hey, we decided to go with somebody internal. Well, just because there was nobody internal when you started doesn't mean somebody came in along the way. It doesn't mean somebody didn't bump into somebody in the hall and say, hey, we're interviewing for this position. So you got to stay on top of it all the way along the way. And if you want a little more help on that, let me see. This brightness stuff is really kind of ugh. If you want a little more help on that, you can check out my video on what to do if there are multiple candidates in the interview process. All right, so that's step 0. Step 1. This is these next couple of points, this is really kind of working to get you kind of even to ground zero. But first thing that you got to do, once you know there are candidates, internal candidates in, is you got to get intelligence on them. Which departments are they from? Where did they come from? Maybe are they somebody who's making a wholesale change? Is it somebody who maybe is in the junior analyst position and they're trying to just get promoted to the analyst position? So what is it about the internal candidates that you can discover? Is there any reason, Mr. Hiring Official or Mr. or Mrs. Screener, that you wouldn't just outright hire somebody internally? Is there something missing? Is there any reason that might not be the case? Or, is this interviewing more of a formality. You know, you could try to get at these things. You would be amazed at how much information people are willing to share about this process. You know, some might say, you know, well, the internal candidates just, you know, they're not ready yet. They don't, you know, we're looking for an outside opinion. Some are, yeah, you know, we're going through a process. It is a requirement that we interview internal candidates and external candidates. You want to know, you want to make sure that you understand that. All right, step 2, still working towards getting you to ground zero. How do we neutralize home court advantage for them? So how do we level the playing field? What is it that you can do in order to kind of catch up with them so that you're somewhat neutral? Now, one of the things that I think really can help you level the field is being uber prepared. Doing your homework, making sure you know everything you possibly can about the company, the interviewers, and so on. But I want to make a special call out here to the job description. So, you know, when you get the job description, you obviously should study up on it. You want to know what it is, what skills are required, what's important, what are bonuses, all those other things. But and you probably will study the job description harder than an internal candidate would. But I want you to take not just one extra step, but 2 extra steps. I want you to not only look at the job description that is being made available in the position that you're potentially being hired for. I want you to look at the next lowest position to make sure that you are 100% covered with the requirements of what that person or that team does. And then I want you to look at the next level up. So one step up if you can find it. You know, if you're the analyst and there's a junior analyst and senior analyst position, so to speak, how close to the next level are you? Are you 10% there, 50% there, 80% there? These are things that you can pounce on in the interview by talking about how you're leveled up already or almost there already, or at least speak to the types of requirements that next position would call for. Will give you an extra leg up. So you want to make sure you check that out. Now on this job description one, we did a live office hours. I want to say it might have been the beginning of last year where I talked about how to ace the interview using the job description. So it's a live office hours show. All right, next one. Let's talk about these. I call them the sit cues. I'll explain what this is. But the situational interviewing questions, I want you to make sure that you check the environment and you check the data before you answer any of these questions. Let's talk about this. So, for those of you that follow me, you know I talk a lot about this. There are only 2 types of interview questions. There's questions about your past and there's questions about your future. So questions like, tell me about yourself, walk me through your resume, what did you like about your boss, why did you quit your job, tell me about a time when, how did you organize that project, what did you do then, All of that stuff is about your past. Generally speaking, dare I say 100% of the behavioral interviewing questions fall into that category. Then there's the other side of the time spectrum, which is about the future. So we have this project. How would you go about doing it? We have this customer. She's kind of a pain in the butt. She's always complaining about this, that, and the other thing. How would you interact with her? What would you do? How would you solve that problem? How would you build that team? How would you? So anytime you get asked a question that's situational in nature where you're going to talk about the future. Any of these types of questions, forget what we're calling them for a second, just anything about the future. You want to make sure that before you discuss how you would do something, the first thing that you do is you tack down all the assumptions that you're going to make and you get any additional information that you would need to know that would help you better package your response. So you can safely assume that the internal candidate is probably going to have a better understanding of what the internal operating environment is like, who the players are, what the problems are, what that likely is like. You need to catch up before you answer that question. Now, I would recommend you do that anytime you answer a situational interview question, but I want you to especially do it when you know you're competing against an internal candidate. It's just safe practice before you open your mouth. Make sure you know where you're going to go. Now, one thing that I did do is we shot a video on all how to talk about the future. I've done this in several videos. I'll make some reference to those, but we've got a lot more on that. Now, the other thing that I want you to do, part 3 of step 2, is I want you to be as inclusionary as possible, inclusive of everything that you speak about. And your language should be team-oriented. So what do I mean? So as the interviewing process goes on, and you get more familiar with the players in the process, the people you're interviewing with, maybe the names of some of your teammates, your team members, your internal customers, whoever that might be. But really hang on to who you're interviewing with, what it is they do, what their goal in life is, what their function is, and so on. So that as you get into the second interviews, the third interviews, and so on, even though you might not be repeating an interview with somebody, as you talk, if you talk to John and Jane in the first round and you're talking to Sally and Bob in the second round, you can speak to Sally and Bob in a manner that says, hey, I was talking with John and Jane the other day and they mentioned this about this upcoming project. It really resonated with me. I really liked their approach because, and here's my thoughts on it. I would love to get your insight on that. So the more that you can speak about being part of the team, the more you can speak about the people that you've already interacted with. Hopefully there's pleasantries that you can say about them and what they shared with you and how much it pumped you up. All of that stuff makes you sound and will make the interviewer feel like you're already part of the team, like you're already knowledgeable, like you'll walk right in the door and it'll be like having an old friend there. So it's really important that you do that. I actually shot a whole video on the second job interview. It's called Second Job Interview. It's probably like three tips to nail it or ace it or 3 keys to get hired or something like that. The video was so popular that it was stolen by 2 other YouTubers that copied the script exactly. I know I had to put some copyright strikes against them and get involved with YouTube and all the little fun stuff that goes with being a YouTuber. But true story, a total side story there. But it's a good video. Check that out. All right, now let's talk about what you are that they're not. So you get to this spot where, all right, you kind of caught up with them already. Well, what are you that they aren't? The glow of the newness, right? The excitement of what is to come. You were shiny, you were new, you are the future. There's a level of freshness to you. So that is likely your single greatest advantage if you have equal skill sets with an internal candidate. You might have additional skill sets that the internal candidate doesn't have, and that's great. But your greatest asset as somebody coming in off the street or outside the company is the fact that there is that glow of newness. Okay, that promise of tomorrow, the art of the possible, whatever you want to call it. So you need to lean on this, that your ideas may not be, all that new to you, but they might be fresh and futuristic to the company. So we talked about, when you talk about those situational interview questions, when you get asked those questions, you want to make sure that you kind of level up, get the background and data, and then go. But you also want to make sure that you're doing as much as possible, trying to shift the interview into the future. And I actually shot a video on this as well about this one job tip is guaranteed to get you hired. You should check that out because it talks about how to control the interview and get the interviewer into the future. Because that's much better for you to be able to connect the dots about how what you've done maps to what they'll do in their environment and where you can take them. And I want to drive this point home with a little here's how. I want you to remember this expression. You should use it often. Be generous with it in your interviewing process. So when you are asked about your past and you say, here's how we did it, or even if you're not asked about your past, when you're addressing situational interview questions, the futuristic stuff, here's how I did it in the past. Here's how we can apply that into your environment to move you forward. Here's how we can do this. Here's how we can change that. Here's how I would go about doing that. Everything is here's how. Here's how it'll happen for you. It gets them to imagine what life will be like with you. It will be very easy for them to see how what you have done can move them forward. Do not minimize the impact that newness has, especially for small and medium-sized companies. It's good for large companies too, although it's a little less powerful because they move a bit slower. Okay, so you want to make sure that, and then one other quick example before I move on to the next one is, true story, we're in the middle of a search right now for Mile Walk, my recruitment firm, and our operations officer at our client company is looking for a very senior consulting resource. And whenever we take a search, we always ask our clients, is there anybody internal that you would want to elevate before you go out and spend all this money with us to go out and find you somebody? And the woman said, we've got some people who are, could do the role or are already in the role. But we are really looking for an outsider's perspective, somebody that could come in that while they might not understand our products and services to the level that these internal folks already do, the things that are even more important to us are their methodology in building relationships with the clients, how they manage and implement solutions, how they run their projects, how they manage the risks, how they manage the scopes, how they do all of these other things that we would like them to also help teach and uptrain the people that we have doing that role right now that have kind of come in homegrown. So it's very, very powerful. You need to lean on that. All right, next one. So I guess this is step 4, so tip 5. Is the organization and the power of your questions. So internal candidates, they tend to be lazy when it comes to questioning. Why? They think they know everything. They think they know the environment. What are they more focused on? Their past, what they know. They rarely are focusing on the future because their greatest asset is that they work there. Your greatest asset is how you're going to change the way they work there. All right, so number 1 on this is make sure that you're asking great questions. We've talked a lot about how to do this. I've shot a lot of videos on that about how to ask your questions. The other thing, a few of them that come to mind are the top 5, my top 5 favorite questions to ask in an interview. I also talked about shot a video on how to ask questions in an interview. But one I want to call out, and I know I get this, you guys kick this back to me a lot. Those of you that follow me know I love the success question. If you don't know what this is, I'm going to tell you. So one of my absolute favorites, and I shot a video on this, the best question to ask or the most powerful question you can ask in a job interview is, if you were to give me this job or give me an offer and I was to accept it 1 year from now, what will I have done exactly that you would consider a raging success? Or anybody in this role, what will they have achieved? What will they have built, sold, managed, created, designed, optimized, reduced, whatever it is specifically? What are those success metrics and the outcomes that you want to occur specifically? You ask that question during your question asking period in the interview, then I immediately want you to go into storytelling about how you would go about doing that. Here again, you are the future, you are fresh, you are offering the perspective that here's how I would do that exactly. And they will love hearing that, will be music to their ears. Music to their ears. Why won't an internal candidate ask this? Because they're spending a lot of time talking about who they know, their comfort in the environment, and all that good stuff. You need to be thinking forward. Most of them generally think that their current situation is their most valuable asset. Just remember that. Keep that in mind. All right, that's 5. Now, I want to give you a bonus. This one is, if you can, I mean, this is not applicable to all positions, but if possible, future plans, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plans are really great for you to leverage in the process. And I put this little thing down here, and I put "for me" in parentheses, and this is for me to remind me to tell you that when you raise this point in an interview, you need to do it in a manner as though you created this plan for you. I did this for me. So, Mr. Employer, I got to thinking, this is a little bit later in your process, right? Not in the screen, not in the first interview, but as you start to get to know them, you start to get a better understanding of what it is they're doing, what it is they're trying to do, where they want to go. I thought about, as part of doing my homework, to evaluate whether I had the right skills, whether I was interested in doing this job, what it was that I was going to be called upon to do. I thought it would be great if I created kind of a 90-day plan so that I could see how I would go about this. Would I feel comfortable? Would I be able to do it well? And as a matter of fact, that plan told me that while I might not know everything and I'd have to adjust it based on, information that I found and discovered once I got here, but it gave me a great level of comfort to know that I would do a great job in this role. So I did this for me, but if you're interested in seeing it, I would be happy to, share it with you if that would be of interest. And then, out you whip it, and then they look at it and they think, wow, this is great. Say, I understand, I'm going to have to make some adjustments, but this is how I would tackle it. And here's how I would go about it. Once again, showing that extra level of thoughtfulness, dedication to the process, dedication to your investigation, dedication to you making a good decision. And you do those things, I guarantee you will have a much better advantage and win out over an internal candidate. So make sure you're asking up front and you're repeating that process. So kind of step 0, step 1. First thing is, what did I say? Get the intel. Second thing is we want to level or third thing is we want to level the playing field. Fourth thing is we want to capitalize on your shiny and newness, right? And then fifth thing, we want to make sure that you are organized and diligent in your questions. And then the bonus, if you can put that plan together, if it's appropriate, if it's applicable, I highly recommend it. So I hope you love that. I know that was a quick one, but I really think that those are the areas to focus on. So if you're loving it, hit the little like button. I know my face is, I'm looking at the screen, it's a little shiny. I've got 2 quick announcements, actually 3 quick announcements. And then we'll go to the chat. If you're watching me on the recording, I'll see you next week. And for those of you that are here with me, I want to let you know Friday, tomorrow, we have a live boot camp coaching session. So throughout all of May, I'm doing this May NIA thing. And every Friday, we've got a live boot camp session that you can participate in, or you can send me your questions in advance. You get the recordings, you get the whole boot camp and all that other stuff. Tomorrow, the subject matter is networking. So I'm going to talk for a while before the Q&A. These things are usually about 2 hours. But I'm going to talk for a few minutes on networking and really highlight job search networking, how to get the most out of it. I know it's a troublesome activity for a lot of people. It's uncomfortable, but we're going to go through that. If you missed the special, so it was $100 off as of a week ago, last Thursday, you missed the special. If you email us at support@milewalk.com, I will send you a coupon for $100 off so you can get in. That's the first thing. Second thing is I've got my Leadership Monthly live session next Wednesday. That's at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, and we're covering big decision making, as in how not to make bad decisions, how to make great decisions, the big decisions in your life and in your career, and why people screw them up, and how to make great ones, what the mechanics are, what specifically you should do. And when you join that, it's a modest monthly fee. You also get the past months. The first one we did was on building confidence. The second one we did was on focusing. Really great stuff. So you can get in and get caught up on that. And then the last thing, I haven't mentioned this the last few weeks, but interview intervention, communication that gets you hired. If you chip in $7 for shipping and handling, we send the hardcover book anywhere in the world. You get the ebook and the audio book. You get a extra ebook bonus that's another $27, which is how to interview the employer, 75 great questions to ask before you take any job. So those are in stock again, and you are welcome to them. And then we also have a Mile Walk Academy calendar of live events. If you never want to miss a live event, you can subscribe to that and drop it right into your Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, or Apple iCal calendar. And that you can access that on the Mile Walk Academy website. So hope that helps. I'm sure my face is looking shiny, but I can't stand it whenever the sun ain't shining, and this is what happens in the lighting in my office. Okay, 136 people. How we doing? Tara, how we doing? Let's see. What do we got? Let me actually, I think it's showing me the top chat. Hang on, I want to get to the live chat. Hey, Kara, I got Kelly Kennedy is my first. I guess I was in there. I don't. Is she? I switched. The chat mode was messed up, so I've got the live chat at 11:02. I don't know if I missed. I think I saw Evelyn in there. Hey, Evelyn. So I've got Kelly Kennedy at 11:02. If I missed anybody before that, can you Slack me the questions? All right. Adam L. I left my EMS role to go back. Oh, just as a reminder, because I know not everybody jumps in right at 11 o'clock. I just go in order in the chat. And so if you're not seeing some of these, questions, that's just because they were there before you got here. And so I'm just going in order. And if I miss you, yell and Kara will catch it. All right, Kelly, boot camper. Hi, Andy. I accepted a job offer, but I still have much to learn from you. Huge thank you. Hey, is that not great? Kelly I think, Kelly, you're over 50, changing careers, and all kinds of good stuff. Huge success story. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that with everybody else who's kind of on the fence but should be getting in the program. It's really a lot of fun. Not only is it a ton of support, but it's a great community, and we have a ball. All right, Adam L. I left my EMS role to go back to school, and I've been struggling to get back into the job market. I've worked in unrelated roles. Does this reflect poorly? No. If you were in school and you had to do what you had to do, I would not worry. What you could do if you wanted is raise your education to the top on your resume, and then what you could do is start your experience. So I don't know how long you've been out of the job market, but you could say, I'm just making this up, but let's say you quit in 2017, and then you went back for 2 years, and you just you finished up your degree or whatever it is. What you could do is you have your career profile. You could have your education with your new degree. Then your professional, you have your highlights or whatever. Then your professional experience could end when you had your last relevant job. And then at the bottom of your resume, you can put, kind of additional part-time experience or additional experience that I was doing through school while I was getting my degree or whatever it is. Put that at the bottom. That's not the issue. That won't be the issue. You need to like the networking stuff that I'm talking about tomorrow, where we've got a dozen different tactics to get to people, how to get to them, how to get your resume in front of them, when to put your resume first, when not to put your resume first, when you're in situations like this. That's the kind of stuff. And I don't think you're in the boot camp, but if you want to get in, get in. If you don't want to get in, then I would focus on my job search networking videos that are out there on the YouTube channel. But that's you're gonna have to lean heavily on that. The other thing that I would do, Adam, check my video on how to handle employment gaps. It's an older video, but I think I just released it, I don't know, maybe 6-8 weeks ago, something like that. I lose track of time. All right. Mike Morgan. I heard from my phantom job offer company, okay, that they should know this week. Not really a question, just wanted you to not worry. I was not worried, Mike, but I'm glad you shared, and sometimes that happens. All right. Annihilator. Good for you. Hopefully I gave you the magic. Hey, Mike. Mike, new boot camper. Carrie Freeman, how are you? You're a mainstay. Krista, great to see you. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks. Hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco. Anybody wants to have a drink? I'm going to be at the pub in Ghirardelli Square at 3 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, June 7th with Krista and her husband and my wife. Hey, Lorenza, how are you? From the UK. Sid, how you doing? Oh, my goodness, that's Linda LaCivita, so she'll be there with me too. That's my missus. Oh, thank you, Carrie, for the room in the back. That took us forever to get the furniture, but it's here. Steve, if you've never asked that question in your entire life, start now, my friend. And Annihilator. Okay, so I do in the prelims. Carol, hey, how are you? Hopefully you got my email this morning, and hopefully we can work that out for you. But yeah, it's it is common, well, I should say it's not so uncommon that people ask that in the upfront part, but then they don't ask it along the way. And so that's what we want to make sure that you're not forgetting that other people can enter into the process, and you should just keep asking that the whole way through. I mean, not every day, but you know what I mean, every week. All right. Trent Doyle, how you doing? I see you just grabbed the book. Chun, thank you for clarifying how to pronounce your name. And yes, please. Fawn, how you doing? Diana, how are you? And glad you liked the calendar. Ken, how you doing? Mary Lou. All right, interviewed with a company last month. They chose an internal candidate. Boo. All right, recruiter mentioned a few other positions would be coming up in a few months. Tried contacting the recruiter, no response. Don't worry about it. So Mary Lou, hopefully what you did is you used the rejection process that I've given you guys. You know, when you don't get the job, but it went well, like in Mary Lou's case, especially the fact that the recruiter mentioned there would be other positions. The recruiter wouldn't do that if the recruiter didn't think that you could fit in these other positions. So what I would do is I don't know when you said interviewed last month. Okay. Then 1 month later, I would contact the recruiter. Then I would wait 1 more month because in your case, they said in a few months. So you don't know when that is. That's okay. Just reach back. You've made contact, you've interviewed, you know the person, you can go directly to them, and once a month I would be contacting them for the next 6 months. I would literally do that. But hopefully it won't take you 6 months. You'll find either something there or somewhere else. Adam Stark, how you doing? Hope you're well. Previously in my career profile, I'd refer to myself as a sales pro, but I want to change careers to a creative role. How should I refer to myself in my profile? What's the creative roles that you want? There's content creation, marketing creation, there's social content, community stuff. I don't know what to tell you because I don't know what kind of role you want specifically. And if you are going to change careers, then you need to have a pretty good bead on the potential spots you want to go. All right, Suzanne, how you doing? Don, how you doing? From Ohio. Sarah S, another, but Don, Sarah, boot campers. Come on, where's your hashtags? All right, what should I say when they ask what type of job are you looking for when companies call same positions with different titles? I think that's a silly question, not your question, their question to you. If you, I'm wondering if you're asking me this because you're networking with somebody or you're actually interviewing. If you're interviewing with somebody and they ask you that type of question, I think that you need to kick it back to them and give them general responses. I'm looking for this type of position or that type. I'm looking for a business analysis type of position. I'm looking for this type of position or whatever, and you need to be generic with your nomenclature because what you don't want to do is eliminate yourself from the process. If you give me more color, I could give you a better answer if you tell me exactly what the situation is. Because you've been going back and forth with me about you're networking with people. Sometimes it's an interview. Sometimes you're interviewing. Sometimes you're not. So I would give you different answers depending on who was asking me the question. Because you say, what should I say when they ask? I'm not sure who they is. When companies call different positions different things, but I would always revert back to the function itself, not the title. So what interests you? I'm interested in, business process improvement, business analysis positions, whether they're operational reengineering or technology reengineering. I mean, like that's the type of language I would use, and then just adjust it for you. Just looking for my next question. Hey, Wilma. I'm just buzzing through here, guys. All right, Sarah's got another question. How should someone get around not getting hired because you owe child support and won't get hired because they're afraid you will oh my God. I'm not even trying to answer that. Sarah, I'm really not. I don't even know what to say to that. Oh God. I really don't know what to say to that. Say I don't steal money. Sarah, tell them, you know what? If a company, you are a wonderful part of the community. I know you're in these programs. I love having you. I can't believe somebody thinks that. And that becomes part of the process in your interviewing process. I would say I have high integrity. I'm not going to, how are you going to steal money? I've worked for companies. I don't know how I would steal money. Kathleen, how you doing? Oh, it's raining in South Carolina. I looked at my weather, the thing, and it said like 100% precipitation. You can't see how dark it is out there, but it's like jet black in front of me. Oh, and there's the thunder. By the way, I hope we don't lose the connection. Tanae, how do you respond when a recruiter asks if they should be concerned that you would return to your old employer? So what I would say is this is a great question. So Tanae Mitchell, how do you respond when a recruiter asks if they're concerned that you would return to your old employer? Here's what you want to drive home. So let's talk generally, then let's talk specifically. The employer does want to make certain, the future employer wants to make certain that you are not going to leave. Oftentimes, they will be concerned if you've worked at a place for a long period of time. We call them tree huggers. I don't know if that's you, but basically somebody who's been in an organization a long time, they don't know what it's like anywhere else. And then they go somewhere else, they get shocked, and they want to go back. So what you need to drive home is, I've carefully thought this through. That's internal thinking. That needs to be part of your response. The second thing that needs to be part of your response is, I've looked at my current employer and I am trying to grow my experience, my skills, my whatever in these areas. And currently, the way my organization is set up, that is not a possibility because, and something that is absolutely dead no way. So just a quick example that comes to the top of my mind. I'm looking for international experience or at least exposure to different parts of the world, and my company solely focuses not only on domestic customers, but also only customers in this particular state or something like that. There's nothing wrong with the company. That's what the company does. But your aspirations are focusing on something that the company couldn't get you. I'm looking to learn these new technologies. My company solely focuses on these two products and only implements those technologies. So there are limitations there, and there's nothing wrong with the company, but I have aspirations, so there's no reason I would return because I want to implement this, or I want to do that, or I want to get this exposure, I want to get that exposure, so on and so forth. Those need to be part of it. They're inarguable statements. Nothing to worry about. And the third element, I just have a high degree of integrity, right? So those are the three things. I thought about it. There's nothing the company could do to keep me, and I just wouldn't do that as a matter of professional etiquette. If I give somebody my word and I sign, I'm good to go. Okay, hope that helped. Great question. Gretchen, how are you? From Maine. Wonderful. Search firm that is conducting a president search for my dream company, so I'm doing my prep. Well, Gretchen, I hope you watched last week's live office hours on everything you want to know about working with executive search firms. So if you have not, it's up there in the playlist for live office hours. All right, Sarah, when you are coming from upper level management as entrepreneurial, how do you not intimidate the interviewer when they are much younger than you are? I would not worry about that. I know people there are a lot of things that people worry about in interview processes. Most of them are self-manufactured. If you are interviewing with somebody who's younger than you are, and that person is interviewing you, could potentially be your boss, a teammate, a customer, or whatever, you should have the assumption that that person knows what they're doing, and the only way that they would be intimidated, and by the way, I know that there are some people with inferiority complexes and you just can't do anything about it. I don't think you should be worrying about that. That's going to throw you off your game. So the way that I try to make people feel comfortable, whether they are the president of the company, somebody who's on my team, a potential person that would be on staff, or whatever, is there's the human element to it. Focus more on the interaction and developing the strong relationship with them rather than trying to, I mean, I know you need to flex your muscles in your skills in the interviewing process, but you can do that in a very heartwarming way. And so I would not worry about that. I really would not. I really would not. That's their problem, not yours. All right. Venkata, how you doing? Emil, how are you? What if two persons from the same interview watch this video and it's okay. Most interviewers won't remember it if they get asked the question, and believe me, it's a-okay. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's only 135 people on here right now. I wouldn't worry. But that is kind of funny. Chun, thank you for that. Interview intervention is fantastic. By the way, some things coming. I am working on an interview intervention workbook that will be an extremely tiny cost that you can get when you get the book. If you already have the book, you can just chip in a few bucks for the workbook. Davita, how are you? M. Tracy, how are you from Brooklyn? Great to have you. You guys are great. Darter 9000. Yes, I am glowing. You know, I can't stand this. I got to get a different setup, too, for when it's dark out. All right, Jonathan Payne, about cover letters through email. Is the cover letter included in the resume PDF? No. Or just the body of the email, or both? Where's the best place to explain your career gap? Okay, you are very efficient, my friend, with your questions. Let's pick them off. So, number one, my recommended approach with cover letters, assuming you are emailing the cover letter, through email, you said. What I like to do is I like to make the cover letter the email. And depending on the strength of the relationship, if it's a warm referral, if it's cold, if it's whatever, I might adjust the amount of text that I put in there. But more or less, cover letter type language I would put in the email. Never put it in your resume. Okay, the resume should be the resume. The cover letter could then be attached. It's okay to duplicate what you put in the email. Trust me, it's fine. I know you think it's duplicating. A lot of people think it's duplicating. Don't worry about that. That's totally okay. Where is the best place to explain your career gap? It depends. And one thing that I would do is I'll give you some context here, but I would watch how to handle an employment gap. Watch the video, because I cover how to do it in a resume, and I cover how to do it in the interview, all in that video. And it's not a very long video; it's 10 minutes or whatever, but it's a good one. And so, but the best place to explain it, so you have to explain it in multiple spots. You have to explain it in your initial contact with somebody. That could be in the cover letter. In the resume, if you have something that you can explain in a sentence, which all of you should be able to, you can put it I like it as the second sentence in the career profile, second paragraph, second sentence. So, if you have a career gap that you are currently in, then what I would do is say, returning to the workforce after 1 year gap, taking care of family members, traveling the world, volunteering in wherever, whatever it is, boom, super tiny, super quick, but right there at the very end of the career profile. If your gap is in the middle somewhere, so between 2015 and 2016, you went and you fed starving kids in Africa, you could put, additionally spent 2 years between 2015 and 2016 feeding starving kids in Africa, and put it there as well. So that's how I would phrase those things. But don't go redo your resume so that it's functional style or skills based where you're trying to hide an employment gap. You put the mind of the reviewer in a negative mode, because if you send me a skills-based resume and I actually read it or look at it, because most of the time I won't even look at it. Not 2 seconds, not 5 seconds, not nothing. I open it and close it and I dump it, literally. But if I am going to look at it, even if it's a referral from a friend or something like that, and I open it, I immediately am now not looking at their resume. I'm looking for what they're hiding. I literally am looking for what they're not telling me. And you ask any recruiter, that's what they do. They are looking for what is missing. Now you've put me in a negative mode, right? And I'm looking for something that I shouldn't be. Instead of looking at your wonderfulness with what you are, I'm looking for what you're not. So don't do that. Don't do that. So I hope that helps. Elena, how are you? DeVita, yeah. Yeah, folks, the boot camp is good stuff, man. Tomorrow on networking, we get a lot of fun. Dan Morris, I'm sorry, I am a week late on this, my friend. You know how much I love you, and you're in everything. So we always try to get this stuff out there. I'm going as fast as I can. All right. And the leadership. And Sarah. Sounds like you're getting some traction. Adam L. When organizations repost a position you applied to recently, less than 4 weeks ago, what are some possible things going on internally? What could be some of the reasoning behind that decision? Awesome question. So Adam L. and everybody, couple things about postings. Number one, okay, so by the way, I have no idea specifically what this company is going through, but here, and Adam asked, what are some possibilities? It could be any number of these. So if somebody reposts something where they take it down and put it up again, what they're doing is they're trying to basically re-age it, meaning they want it to look fresh to you so that people that are applying will have a good feeling about applying, and not. So some people psychologically won't go at it if it's been there a long time, because they'll think that they're in the process of interviewing candidates and all that good stuff. It's kind of weird, because if something is open for a long time, then what happens is I would think, okay, they're struggling, right? But what a lot of companies will do, especially if the applicant or the job itself is being circulated through different job sites. So sometimes there will be a link between the company's posting and Indeed and Hot Jobs and all that other stuff. And what those sites will do is when they grab the job descriptions, when you put in project manager, business analyst, marketing associate, and whatever, they'll pull up the jobs based on most recent first. So companies want their stuff going back up. That's one reason they do it, okay? Another reason could be that they tried to hire somebody. It didn't work out. Until I was a recruiter, I didn't realize how prevalent that was. Not that our candidates don't show up, they do. But sometimes when we were doing contingency hiring or recruitment, and we would have clients call us and say, okay, we filled the position. I'd say, okay, no problem. We'd stop that. And then a couple weeks later, they'd say, never showed up, or we did the background check, things fell through, the guy then took another job. How many of you guys on here asked me, hey, I'm getting an offer. Should I take it because I'm in an interview process with my dream company? And what do I tell you? Take it. If you can't get the extension, take it. Keep going. If you get the dream company, take that. Right? That's gonna happen. That could be a reason. Sometimes companies re-age them every month because we know companies that will always leave their sales job description open, their system, sales engineer position open because they can never get enough and they always want to be entertaining candidates and they always want everybody to think it's fresh. It could be any of those. It could be other things too, but those are real common. Like those three that I just gave you, super common. Super common. All right. Let me see. Oh. All right. David, that was funny when he said I'm going to talk for a while and his hand was actually this wasn't very thick. Dan Morris, thanks for that. Folks, you know what? Can I give you a super heads up? Like, meaning like throwing the cast out of the bow or whatever, a shot across the bow. I'm going to be starting so I have a podcast, but I'm going to be starting a whole new leadership podcast. And I'm going to be releasing the season like Netflix releases the season, where they're all in a row, and I'm going to be interviewing people. And I'm already getting connected with some pretty badass people that I'm going to be interviewing. And, you can download this audio and get it all. And I'll clip up the video content and I'll shoot some stuff live like this. And it's going to be pretty awesome. But it's going to be a great opportunity for you to see the kind of things that we're covering in the leadership program. And I'm talking some pretty badass people. So it's, but that leadership program is really, really fun. And the building confidence and the focus and this thing I have coming up on decision making is pretty great. And you get a great workbook, you get some thought provokers, you get challenges, you get pep talks from me. It's a nice community too. It really is. Thank you, honey. I try to look as good as possible. I took a shower before the show, so I'm looking a little bit more. I've been up since 4:30. I don't know what time you guys get out of bed, but it's like a whole day's worth of work already. All right, let me see. David from Chicago. Great. It is storming. Chun, you should be getting the RSVP. Actually, Kara, I'm assuming you clarified that for him. When you're in the boot camp, you get a link to RSVP for the sessions. And Chun, if you RSVP'd for last week's, because you were in, or you would have gotten that, if you RSVP'd, you're set for the whole thing, and it should all be downloaded into your calendar. Sam, how are you? I've followed up once a week after submitting resumes with hiring official. It's 3 weeks in. They said customers are reviewing candidates. How long should I wait? So I don't know how many you sent. You said I followed up once a week after submitting a resume. It's 3 weeks in. So you submitted it and then you submitted 3 follow-ups. If you did that, I would wait a bit. I mean, that's some pretty consistent follow-up. I probably wouldn't have sent them that frequently, but I would wait a couple weeks. SFC, boot camper, who's that? So next time, SFC, tell me who you are. All right, what is the best way to follow up on a phone interview? I had a screening that led to an interview. The interviewer told me she wanted to schedule an in-person, then I was ghosted. Okay, so first off, I would love to know who you are. Secondly, so when you're on a phone screen, at the end of the phone screen, at the end of any interaction, phone, video, any of that stuff, you want to make sure that you say, okay, that's great. We're going to go to the next interview. I'm interested. What's the timing on that? When will I hear from you by? Just approximately. And then I don't know how long this is. So have you been ghosted for a day, a week? A week is a long time if they haven't gotten back to you. Oh, Gabe, okay. That's a long time if they haven't gotten back to you when they said, hey, we'll follow up. So the best way to follow up is if I had a phone interview and they said, we'll follow up for the next interview, what I likely would do is wait 5 business days and then I would email them. If I don't hear from them within 2 days, I would call them. I would, because you're engaged now with them. And that's okay to do. That's okay to do. So try that. Danny Bootcamper, how you doing? Thanks, Sarah. Isaac, I'm not sure if this is a question. Let me see. An internal applicant has a lot of advantages. They know the organization inside and out and can even have referees inside the organization. In short, there's a lot to go against. That's true. But I just gave you a whole bunch of stuff you can do. Adam, 2 to 3 years. That was for undergrad. That's okay. Put the education up top. Thank you. Can I get a channel? Yeah, folks, I don't really say this a lot. I try to say it once or maybe twice, but hit the thumbs up button. YouTube loves that. By the way, I'm rolling up on about 100,000. I don't watch the numbers too much about the subscribers, but if you're not subscribed, please subscribe as I'm climbing my way to 100K, which is kind of a big number with YouTube because once you hit 100K, then they send you this big plaque and medallion and I don't know what else, but they've been relatively good to me, especially when people steal my stuff. All right, Kevin Peterson, do hiring managers typically point out that there are internal candidates and ask you to compare yourself to their internal experience? No, they do not, and no, they do not. That isn't, because it is a ineffective question to ask you to compare yourself when you don't know those people. And even if you did, talk about what you are, not what you're not, or not what they are or what they're not. I do want you to be mindful of what the gaps might be, why they would not just automatically hire somebody. Because if there's a gap why they wouldn't automatically hire somebody, you're hopeful that you could fill that gap out and out, and that's an advantage for you. But no, the answer to your question is no. All right, let me see. Just trying to buzz through. Steve from Norfolk, how are you? Retiring Navy. Crashing coursing on videos, thanks. Oh, you are welcome. And somebody's giving you a thumbs up for your service, as we all should. You are welcome, David. Majid, how are you? California, is there any benefit to publishing a resume to public job search website like Indeed or Monster and so on? So, great question. Should I post my resume on a site that allows people who have recruiters and HR officials and hiring officials that have or companies that have access to those sites and the resumes and so on? So, a couple things. I am a little more of a fan of being deliberate and going after what I want and creating leverage in my interaction with them by making it appear, whether this is true or not, as though I'm a hot commodity. If I throw my resume out there, then they're gonna know a couple things. Either you're actively looking and you're not happy with your current role, it kind of decreases your leverage a bit. Or if you're not actively looking and you have your resume out there, then from an integrity standpoint, it kind of looks a little shifty. Like, well, you're an employee, you have a company, and what are you always going to be looking? Now I'm going to worry that you might leave me at the first drop, for the BBD, right? The bigger, better deal. So I don't love that. However, if you are actively looking and you are unemployed, I don't see the harm in it. I really don't. Because that's gonna come out in the interviewing process. So what I think you will find is you might get flooded with opportunities that are not really for you. So that's usually the beef of people when they put their resume up. They're like, I get these emails for positions that, I could have done 10, 15, 20 years ago, or, it's totally out in left field or whatever. But yeah, that to me is the issue. All right. Kathleen Phillips, you are a dear boot camper. Love Andy and all his advice. Thank you. And Kathleen is a boot camper, and she's in the leadership program too. It's just, we have such a great time. I hope you're going to make it next week, Kathleen. It's really going to be a good one. Any tips for a healthcare job? A lot of tips are more business-like banking. Nope. Jessica, when you say healthcare, you mean like nursing, medical staff? Tell you what, can you, so that I don't go all over the place, Jessica, if you're still here, if you could head to the bottom and just let me know specifically what your job is, I can tell you what I would do. All right. And we're going to be closing up here in a few. Again, wait, I'm going to take some more questions, but boot camp tomorrow. Actually, it's tomorrow, next week. And so it's the 17th, the 24th, the 31st. And then, just so you know, we have a session in June. We have 3 in July and 2 in August, all like right in a row. So every Friday for like 5 weeks. So if you get in now, you're going to get, 9, 10, private coaching sessions with me in a much smaller group where we, I usually can get through all the questions in the sessions. All right. Let's see. Derek, been working as a contractor, essentially being laid off. You're welcome. Kara is sharing the interview intervention book. It's also in the description of this, and you can either access it underneath the video if you're watching now, or when this is recorded and the live stream's available, you can see it there as well. Hemel, how according to you, how much luck plays a part to get a job? 0. I don't even think about luck at all, ever, never. I think I'm grateful for my good fortune and my health and all that, and my wonderful wife that I waited a half a century for and all that other good stuff. But I don't look at jobs that way. And I look at, if you go out and you start meeting people and you start networking and you start socializing and all that stuff, and somebody refers you to somebody who that was, their luck played no part in that. You put yourself out there to let things happen to you. That is by design. There's nothing lucky about it. So I just don't even, I think 0. I genuinely mean that. Milkman, I'm struggling on how or if to translate my military job titles to civilian. I applied at Microsoft, but fear that competing against COO, etc. I don't have that title, but ran ops for 4,000 people. Okay, Milkman, I have a booklet. I wrote it a couple years ago about how to go from military veteran to civilian professional. You and anybody else who is making a transition, whatever, out of academics, out of the military, out of non-for-profits, out of government, public service, and so on, that's going into a commercial environment, you have one hurdle that a lot of other people don't, which is you have to connect the dots for the employers for how what you've done maps to what they need. If I'm you, I have to look at my own assessment, so my assessment of myself, and I would point you to not only the booklet, you can go to andrewlacivita.com, go to the blog. In the blog, in the search bar, type military veteran, and the booklet will come up. It's free. And then what you need to do is you need to look at your own internal requirements of the things that drive you. The video to check out for that is how to choose the right job. So there's a bunch of self-awareness stuff that you need to do. Okay, I went through this on a coaching session last night with a senior person who works for UBS in Switzerland. and he's done a lot of things, and he started in technology and has evolved into sales in the financial services arena, and we were completely reshaping what types of roles he was going to look at. That's what we were doing, and that's what you need to do. So check that video out to get started, and then make sure that based on what it is that you want to do, you can map what you want to do and the types of things that are of interest to you. You have to look at the circle and what's inside the circle to the intersection of what is the opportunities that you could either create, meaning run your own business or whatever, or inside organizations, what maps to those things that are of interest. That's the second thing you need to do. Then the third thing you need to do is, okay, now I have a translation problem, right? These are the three issues that you have. Then the translation problem is, okay, in what you did in running ops for 4,000 people, they're not going to look at you ran ops for 4,000 people. They're going to say, well, in running ops, what did that entail? And how does that map to what I need you to do here? Okay, now, I think there's value in what you do. Okay, so when I get a military vet's resume, I look hard, but I'm probably not the norm, right? Because I can map it faster than most. But hiring officials and people that don't hire for a living, but that just hire people, but that hiring is not their job, they're going to have a harder time and they're going to be less patient. So you have to alter, you have to be well positioned from a resume standpoint and a storytelling standpoint. So that's what you need to siphon out. And you should not be submitting your resume into applicant tracking systems. That's a no-no, because you're never going to beat out somebody who's got what they need. So you're going to have to lean on the job searching job search networking assets, activities, and those kind of things. And where I would point you to there is in my job search networking videos on YouTube as well. That's what you got to do. Don't, when you say, you applied at Microsoft, I wouldn't even apply. I would try to find somebody who could get me there. And if all of this sounds daunting, it is. I mean, I don't mean to discourage you, but you're in the military. What do? You identify the issue I have to solve. What's the first one? You got to get your requirements in order. Second thing is, how does that map and what's available? That's the second hurdle. Third thing is, okay, now when I find what's available, how do I map what I do? That's your third problem, and so on. Now, getting in there. So I've got after you get past the marketing hurdle, the third hurdle, then you have a routing issue. So how do I get there? It isn't the applicant tracking system. So that's your sequence. Boy, I'd love to have you in the boot camp. I really would. We could dialed up. We could, but try that. Those are a lot of free assets that you can start with. But I know what you're facing. I know that because I see it and help people and I coach them. I mean, I know what they have to go through. All right, Sarah, I know you didn't steal money. You are too lovable and nice. All right, Steve, it's awful. It looks like you wouldn't believe how nasty it is out right now. Let me see. Did Carrot? No, that she never got back. Okay. Yeah, David. There are lights because I need lights behind the camera. When it's dark in the room, the lights have to go further away. But because of the setup and the monitor is glowing on my face. Now, I could turn the monitor down, but what happens is I can't see the stuff. So I need to basically, when it's raining out, I need to not go with this configuration. But it didn't look this dark a little while ago, and it got dark really fast, and I didn't have time to set it all up and change it all out, and I'm really bummed. All right, now, Richard. I recently participated in a second interview that was a dinner with my wife and the owners. Sweet. You, my friend, should follow up with an email the next morning. But okay, so let's genericize this, and then I don't know when the dinner was. You said you recently. Any of you, especially you senior, so Richard is obviously a senior person, because if you get invited to a dinner with the owners of a company, it doesn't matter how big or small the company is, you're a senior person or you're going to be coming in at an impactful position. If it was me, that's dinner, I get home, the next morning, I would have been up way earlier, and I would have made sure that that email was in their inbox. I would not have typed it when I got home after I had, half a bottle of wine or whatever. Then what I would do is later that day, I would send them a card, and I would mail it, and you better mail it. Folks, if you go to a dinner, email and card, these are not negotiable. You know how I say, hey, send an email. Not really anybody sends cards. In a social setting like that, with that level of person, you need to send something that they need to open, tangible. If you're really smoking, you'll toss something in it that is meaningful as well, that maybe came up during this thing. And you will, whether you handwrite in a reference or you actually insert something, I would do that. All right. David Jacobs, yep, that room light, the dark, just heard the thunder. Yeah, it's awful here. Rocky Mountain, I don't know what you're referring to. That was a question. Varun, how do you address a skill gap for a job you are interviewing for? Varun, I know you have interview intervention. You need to go to chapter, it's chapter 6, question 10. How do you educate yourself? That's the answer. It needs to be, there's 3 parts there. Just go grab it. Derek, when sending a resume, how would I know when to send a PDF or a Word document? Send either. It's okay. Susan Cabrera, I'm going to be in the Bay Area on Friday, June 7th at 3 o'clock at the pub in Ghirardelli Square. Come say hi. If you guys think I'm fun on camera, wait till you meet me in person. Because I think my wife would tell you that I am every bit as jovial and annoying too, I'm sure. All right, let me see. I got 3 more minutes. Let me see how many I can get in here. What's the best back to follow up an interview if you don't have the interviewer's email address? I had to send my thank you emails to the recruiter to send each person. Susan, yes, do that. You could, if you want to, what I would do, let's say I interviewed with 4 people at company XYZ and I didn't get their business cards. I would first email the recruiter and just say, I would immediately email the recruiter, as in like the second I get out, and just say, hey, I had a wonderful time. I'm going to send you some thoughtful messages. I want to send some thoughtful messages to you and the team. I didn't get the email addresses. Can you send them to me? That's the first thing. Normally, they'll just give them to you. If they're really goofy and they say no, we're not giving you email addresses, say, no problem. I will send all of them to you. Please forward them to them. That's another route. Now, another thing you can do is if you know the company name and the company domain name. So milewalk.com is my company domain, and then there's the Milewalk Academy, but my email is milewalk.com. You could go to milewalk.com and then just look for milewalk.com on a site called hunter.io. Hunter.io. Key that in the URL, up will pop a site. There's a search bar. You just go type MILE, and by the time you get to the E or the W, Milewalk will pop up, and you click it, and it'll show you that our email configuration is flastname@milewalk.com. So you'll know, because what they do is they comb the internet and they look for our email addresses, and LaCivita@milewalk.com is out there a bajillion times. So the site is certain that that's the configuration. Then you know my name, Andrew LaCivita, Andy LaCivita. You got my first initial A, LaCivita@milewalk.com. That's your guess. Then you go into a site called verifyemailaddress.org, put it in. Check the box, you're not a robot, click yes, and up will pop a green circle with a white check mark in it, and it'll say you are good to go. If it was not, if you typed in like Andy LaCivita at Mile, it would say a red circle with a white X in it. And so you can get their names. Now, if their name is John Smith or Mike Johnson or whatever, it might, they might be Mike Johnson 1, Mike Johnson 2, Mike Johnson 3. So, but normally you'll be able to get those, and the recruiter wants you to send a thank you. most of the time. It's weird when they don't. All right, folks, listen, I got to run. Couple things. If you want to get in the boot camp, the session is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. You get the session, you get the recording, and you get the next week, and the next week you can come and join us. It's a ton of fun. I will answer your questions in the system. So basically, it's a self-paced program now, and we do these live Q&As where I call your attention to certain key things. Tomorrow's networking. But I'm there. People ask me questions all day, every day, and every day I set time aside to go and answer their questions in the system, or we talk about them at the sessions or whatever it is, but you will get your questions answered, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great community. We got Facebook groups, we got LinkedIn group. It's pretty neat. And then next Wednesday is my Leadership Monthly program. You can check all that stuff out off the Mile Walk Academy website and get the calendar. So like my live office hours next week will be in the calendar. You can subscribe, and then as we update it, your calendar will be updated with the times, the dates, the links, and so on. It's a combination of free and paid stuff, but you will see what's what, where I am, and always never miss a show. All right. Gotta run, folks. You guys be good. For any of you that are in Chicago, stay out of the storm, and I'll see you next week. Take care.